thin privilege. 4-Minute Feminism is basically where I talk about a subject related to feminism in under 4 minutes.
So you mean you take a normal topic and then nitpick everything to try and find something to complain about? Sounds like a feminist.
Today I wanted to talk about what is considered even a controversial subject within feminism, thin privilege. Before I start, I'm gonna say I'm a thin person, I have thin privilege. I don't experience any form of fat phobia or fat shaming, so this is coming from a privileged perspective.
I love how you say that as if you're apologizing for some sort of religious original sin. Like, I am sorry that I was born with this. And if you're coming from a privileged perspective, does that mean the same as if a guy started talking about feminism? As in, your opinion isn't valid anymore, so we shouldn't listen to it?
People in the West very clearly live in societies that glorify a specific type of body.
A healthy one?
That's the kind of body that's glorified in television, in movies, in advertising, basically any kind of visual media.
Are you burqa body ready? Okay, I get that the media glorifies a very unrealistic standard sometimes, but the main thing is just a body that needs to be healthy and fit. That's it, really. If we started talking about people who are unhealthy in some sort of way, then that's kind of glorifying unhealthy behavior. And yeah, I get that most of the time there's these impossibly beautiful, impossibly thin men and women on TV, but that's what the media is for. The media is this unrealistic escapism. Like, these people wouldn't really exist like that in real life, and they're being photoshopped or faked in some way. But the whole point is to kind of lose yourself in the idea that they are existing in that kind of way. Like, you kind of lose yourself in something that isn't reality. That's kind of what the point is. Everyone can tell that being curvy is okay. That is glorified a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a difference between someone who's curvy and someone who's fucking too big to fit through a door. And I think people are kind of acting like those are the same things, and they're not. Being curvy is being glorified, and that's good. All different shapes and sizes is great, but not if they're unhealthy and they're depicting an unhealthy standard.
This glorification of very specific body types affects everyone. It affects your self-esteem, it affects your own self-image, it affects...
I'm kind of starting to see a pattern here. It's always like, okay, this group is always being discriminated against for this reason. And I know that this side has that happen to them sometimes too, and I hear about it, and that's really bad. But that's not a big a deal as when it happens to these people. And it's always these bunch of personal experiences. And then you just reject the personal experiences that don't fit your agenda and don't fit the thing that you want to say is true. So you'll accept some of the things that come from this side, but if someone tells you about something that happened to them from this side, you're like, no, that's a personal experience of yours. That's just a one-time thing, a one-time incident. This side is being perpetually victimized because they tell me so.
The types of bodies that you think are acceptable
So land whales should be glorified as healthy?
and are attracted to.
Okay, this is kind of going down that road of attraction as a social construct. I know that you're not specifically saying those words, but I have heard a lot of feminists in this kind of area start talking about how if you're not attracted to this type of woman, that means that you are bigoted against this kind of woman. But if you are attracted to this kind of woman, that means that you're fetishizing them. Like, what do you want us to do then? Kill ourselves? Nothing we're gonna do is make you happy. What the fuck do you want? You saying that attraction is a social construct is exactly the same as those people that you call bigoted who say that sexuality is a social construct because my religion tells me so. That Winston Churchill quote about fascists identifying themselves as anti-fascists is really coming to fruition, isn't it?
So a side effect of this glorification of very specific body types is the idea that fat bodies are unattractive, unappealing. On the opposite end of this, a lot of people argue against the existence of thin privilege because very thin bodies are also stigmatized in a sense. There's no end of very skinny people telling you that they've been made fun of, they've been called anorexic, they've been told to eat a sandwich. So because of those experiences, they don't experience thin privilege.
This is the same logic you hear about anything coming from feminism. You know, some men get abused, and that's terrible, but you know what? It's terrible for anyone to get abused. So we should focus on the women. You know, it's like, okay, I hear you, you're a man who says he's got abused, but that's a one-time incident from your personal experience, so that shouldn't count. However, I think that we should treat abuse as it affects women exclusively, because a lot of women that I spoke to have personal experiences, and that's totally not cherry-picking at all.
And don't get me wrong, this type of body shaming absolutely exists, and it's not okay. It's not okay if you're shaming fat bodies, and it's not okay if you're shaming thin bodies.
Yes, it's bad for everyone, but
I think this is a problem that needs to be viewed systemically rather than just based on interpersonal experiences.
And you don't think that the accounts coming from fat people are interpersonal experience? How do you tell which one is a reliable experience and which one isn't? What makes you the arbiter of this is evidence but this isn't? Is it just because of the message that you want to give?
I think one of the main privileges that thin people experience, and yes, I'm including very thin people, is
being able to fit through doors?
That their weight doesn't exclude them from getting proper medical care.
Please have an explanation for this.
This is a very common experience where if someone is considered fat, they go into the doctor, and instead of focusing on the ailment that they're talking about, the doctor will say, "Oh, I think you need to lose some weight."
Yeah, you're totally right. All of the health issues associated with being fat that have been proven, including liver problems, kidney problems, heart problems, they've got nothing to do with being fat. How dare the doctor tell me what I have to do to take care of my body? You should care about my feelings.
You know, it could be completely unrelated to whatever symptoms they're having, but that's always the doctor's first choice.
Are you sure about that? I don't think you should rely on interpersonal experiences.
There's a higher mortality rate for fat people for many different diseases because they're discriminated against.
Not because being fat has been the result of poor dieting choices and has been proven to have a lot of negative health risks. And the same goes for overly thin people. They're not that way because they're being discriminated against. A black person doesn't suddenly get cancer because someone was racist to him before.
Because they're not taken seriously. Because their symptoms are ignored.
There's this whole thing about you saying that fat people don't have any sort of health risks or anything like that. And being fat isn't unhealthy. That's making people believe that, and then when they are diagnosed with something, they're like, no, it's not because I'm fat. And then they don't make that connection, they don't listen to the doctor. Oops, they're dead. Or maybe it's because they think they know better than the doctors because a feminist told them that they shouldn't have to take responsibility for their own body or their own shortcomings. And that if they get handed a short straw in life, they shouldn't just try and be strong and overcome it. They should just blame other people. Maybe that's why.
And while it's shitty to be a thin person who's told to eat a sandwich, they're never going to experience this kind of discrimination within the medical field simply for being very skinny.
And how do you know any of this? How do you have such an in-depth knowledge when you said you came from a privileged perspective? And as for stigmas, whenever someone says eating disorder or drug abuse, you always think of an overly thin person with a really skeletal frame just kind of hunched over in the corner. That's what usually comes up. If you're going down that same road of discrimination and stigma, thin people have that too.
When someone is losing a lot of weight, doctors look into what might be causing that weight loss. Is there a disease or some kind of disorder involved that's making this happen?
Okay, think of it this way. When you exercise, it takes you a really, really long time to get all of that muscle and to get into the shape you want. Let's say it takes 6 months for you to get into that kind of physique that you want, with all that hard work. And then you don't do it for like 2 weeks. If you just drop it for 2 weeks, you're gonna lose all of that progress. It's a lot easier for the body to just revert to being just bare minimum of what it's meant to be healthy, because our bodies are naturally lazy. That's why we're naturally kind of lazy, because our bodies are naturally kind of lazy. Why do you think it's so hard for people to stick to diets? Why do you think it's so hard for people to get progress on their diets? Why there's always these shortcut diets, lose weight in like 2 days kind of things that never work? Because if you're having rapid weight loss, that is usually because of some sort of significant medical thing. It's because it's harder to have rapid weight loss and rapid weight gain.
On the other hand, fat individuals usually have their fatness viewed as the cause of a disorder or a disease rather than a symptom of it.
Refer to my previous point.
Even though there are so many cases where certain medications, certain digestive disorders, diseases, mental health issues can cause weight gain and should be viewed as a symptom of a disease or a medication. It's just viewed as the cause, and it's viewed as that person's fault.
Look, I know this is supposed to be a short video, but I feel like a lot of the stuff the points that you're making is because you're grouping so many different types of medical issues together. You're kind of going that all fat people are like this. And yeah, I've kind of been doing that too, but I feel like we should straighten that out now. Not all fat people, hashtag not all. I like that because there are various different types of reasons. Because there are various different types of people, various different types of medications, various different types of everything. But a lot of the time, you see fat acceptance movements being done by extremely fat people who are just really, really out of the norm. And they're out of the norm because they're really, really unhealthy. And especially when we're considering trying to portray something to strive for and something to be, it's very bad to have someone who's blatantly unhealthy and blatantly just lazy and doesn't want to take any responsibility as a picture of something to strive for. That's why we usually have the weight loss ads, guy with the really intense abs or the chick with that really good bikini body. It's because it's to give you something to strive for, to like, hey, don't you want to be healthy? Because healthy is good. And yeah, there are so many different types, but they are the common types, which are usually just poor life choices. And you're saying that people are just pointing the finger at someone saying it's their fault. Sometimes you kind of do have to say that, not in a mean way like that. If someone said it in that mean way, like, it's all your fault, I blame you for all of your problems, blah blah blah, that is a mean thing. But sometimes you have to go, yes, it is a result of your choices that you are like this. And so you have to take the initiative to put yourself in an area where you're more happier and healthier. Saying that isn't a bad thing, it's necessary.
Fatness and weight gain is always viewed as a moral failing rather than just something that could be symptomatic of a larger problem. I just think it's very fucked up that a person who loses weight is losing weight because of a disorder, but a person who gains weight has a disorder because they're gaining weight.
Again, you're making a really broad statement. If someone is losing weight and they're really overweight, then it's seen as positive because they're becoming healthier if the weight gain was making them really unhealthy. The same thing with if they're really skinny. If someone has anorexia or something and they're really, really skinny and they start going through therapy and eating more, people generally think it's a positive thing, as well as when the person was losing weight in my previous example, because they're being healthy. You can see the kind of healthiness returning to their skin. You can see their hair becoming more full and healthy. You can see their nails being healthy. Just a lot of things in the body that's letting you know that this person has good health. That's usually why. It's not because of the fact that it's this specific type of body frame that we're looking for. It's because people who are this kind of shape and this kind of weight are usually healthy people because of what is shown, what is proven to be healthy.
It doesn't correlate and it doesn't make sense, and I think it really just is dependent on our bias against fat people and fat bodies. On top of that, fat people are also more likely to be discriminated in the workplace. They're more likely to be viewed as lazy or less likely to get hired for a job because of their weight. Fat people are viewed as neglectful parents.
And yeah, everyone kind of goes through discrimination because people are assholes and we have to deal with it. But a lot of the time there's this very specific reason, and sometimes it can be seen as unfair, but really it isn't. For example, I am really short. And if I wanted to be in construction or something like that, if I wanted to build things or do some really heavy work like that, people probably wouldn't want to hire me because I'm short and I probably wouldn't be able to reach a lot of the stuff that they need. You see, builders are usually people with really bulky frames who can go around and they're really strong and they can just build things and do the requirements. And also, I have anemia, and me being anemic makes me really tired and really weak. And I have to take iron supplements every single day to make sure that my body is kind of up to standard. And if I don't take them, I get really, really weak. A lot of the time, I find it really hard to get up out of bed, and pulling things open like sliding doors leaves me breathless and just needing to recover. So I'm pretty weak. And those things coupled together would make it undesirable to hire me for contracting and building because I can't reach most of the stuff and I can't even lift up a fucking toolbox without having to sit down. And yeah, it's seen as unfair because I didn't choose those things. I didn't choose to be short, I didn't choose to have anemia. But that's just the way that it is. And it's not my fault, no. But it's not the fault of the person who refused to hire me, because I can't do the things that they would ask me to. I'm not in a good shape to do those things. The person who needs to hire people needs to think about the standard of work that they want, the people who are capable of doing that work, and the customers, and what the customers want. So it's not their fault for wanting people to be the best shape that they can be, to have the best skill that they can be, and to run a good business. And also, it is putting responsibility on yourself. I don't really take care of my appearance, I think you can see that, and I don't really give a shit about how I look. The only thing that I would do to take care of myself is to make sure that my hygiene and health standards are up to what they should be, and to do that to take care of myself. So a lot of the time, I don't really look that good, and because I have a really bad case of the flu at the moment, I look even shittier than usual. But I don't really give a shit. If I suddenly woke up one day and wanted to turn heads as people looked at my dazzling appearance as they walked down the street, I would need to put effort in. I would need to do my hair, I would need to do everything I need to do, put on good clothes and everything to make that an outcome. Because it's my responsibility to take care of myself. If I want an outcome, if I want a reaction, I have to put in the effort to get that reaction. It's the same thing with like, these are real curvy girls, this is sexy, this is not, and the land whale is shown as sexy. Yet at the same time, they expect every guy that they're in a relationship with to look like a fucking model. It doesn't go that way, that's not how it works. And me not really giving a shit what I look like is okay for me to not really put effort into my appearance. I'm not looking for that kind of outcome. But if I suddenly woke up one day and wanted that outcome, and then I started going around and getting angry at people because they didn't give me the outcome I wanted, it's kind of stupid if I didn't put the effort in. It kind of makes me really entitled and really annoying. If you want other people around you to put in effort, then why should you not put in effort as well?
The list goes on, and I'm trying to keep this under 4 minutes, so I'm definitely going to link sources below with more information and more perspectives, because I am a thin person, I can't speak from experience, and I think it's always better to get your perspectives from people who experience those discriminations firsthand.
I looked at the sources that she had in her description. Most of them were just everyday feminism articles and Huffington Post articles that were basically diary entries from these people who were really salty over the fact that they're not getting everything they want and that people don't like them for whatever reason. However, there was a scientific study, and the weird thing about that study is it doesn't really back up what she's saying. If anything, it does kind of contradict it. It basically says that there were a group of fat people who were kind of tested on their health and their physical strength and all that kind of stuff. And there were a group of fat people who did not exhibit the unhealthy kind of things that were associated with being fat. But this was because these fat people engaged in regular exercise. So if anything, the study proves that if you start exercising, you're going to get healthier, and not that if you're fat, then you're not necessarily unhealthy. Because it said that the fat people who weren't as unhealthy or were actually kind of healthy were the ones that exercised. They wouldn't be fat for long, because if they keep exercising, they're gonna be healthier. That's really what it proved. But if you really want to look at the links that she had, you can go see it in her video, which is linked in the description, and then you can read into it a bit more. I kind of skimmed over some of the everyday feminism ones, which I probably shouldn't have done, but it's everyday feminism. I know that's kind of a bad habit, but I really couldn't be fucked. And also, I should just say this now, I don't give a shit what shape and size you are. I don't give a shit if you know the health risks. If you're just like, I don't care about the health risks, I'm gonna eat 25 of these a day because I can. And you know that you're gonna end up unhealthy, and you're not affecting anybody else around you, just fucking go for it. There's nothing I can do to convince you otherwise. I haven't seen my feet in 60 years and I feel great. But the problem that I have is if you start making these false claims and then becoming overly entitled because you don't want to take responsibility for yourself. If you start lying and hurting other people around you, that's when I have a problem. That's why I don't think that we should just glorify being fat if it's unhealthy. If you're curvy, as I said before, that's fine. Everybody knows that's fine. I'm really tired and my throat feels like shit and I can't really talk because I have a blocked nose. So I'm just gonna go take a nap and leave it there. I am gonna be continuing delving into all the list of Tumblr genders that they have so far. I'm not sure when I'm gonna be doing them, probably when I run out of video ideas every once in a while. And yeah, tell me what you think, and tell me what you think about those articles that Marina linked in her description, because they didn't really seem to back up her points and it just confused me a bit.